Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today, I'm going to be doing a different type of reaction to this episode as it's nighttime. So I was still feeling kind of sour a little bit. And I'm like I might film a couple videos tonight. So I was like, I'll just like get out on my negative sour energy with this one, and then if I do film more, then I'll be like okay, basically afterwards. But I'm just starting with the witch hat today. To me, it's not so much like a hot witch hat kind of day. It's like a cold one. So it's like a cold rage rather than a hot rage. So I thought this would be interesting. I think just because, like, honestly, you guys, I'm in a flop era. I am. I'm flopping, which I've never done. I've always either been like a hot mess or like I'm really cooking, or sometimes both at the same time. And now I'm just a flop, and this is totally new. And yeah, I'm kind of flopping until I go to LA in like a week. And then I don't know how the hell I'm going to do that and figure it out and all that. So that'll put me in some kind of hot water. So I should be like moving again, once I do that. But the whole year so far has been a huge flop. So, and even though I'm going somewhere in a week, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that it's been like months of flop. So for now, we're going to be Olivia Rodrigo sour. And we're going to be a mid woman, okay? Because there's nothing like a mid woman. You made her like that, okay? I'm just kidding. All right, let's just go. Enough.
Really, if I posted a picture of myself eating that fucking Zaxby's salad, oh my god, can you believe how many calories are in that salad? Like, you can't fucking win, so why?
You fucked that up.
Yeah.
How many calories are in that salad is what you should have said.
Damn it. But for real, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, so I'd rather be a bad fatty.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that's where like the movement thing comes in, right? Because like if you're not moving, if you're not doing intentional movement, there's some bad fattiness to it.
I hear that and I heard what I just said and I'm like, oh wait, but then I think about one of our, one of our most, favorite admirers who just loves us so much. Half the fucking videos he makes are about fat people who work out and how they're still not doing it right. And it's still not enough, right? Like he talks about
I wonder who they're talking about. I love that they won't call anybody out. Like, it's just like, just say something. They're so annoying. Look, we're all witches here. Let's not act like we're nice. Just say it. I think we all know who they're talking about, but I'm not going to say it because I don't know for a fact, but I think we all know.
Anna O'Brien, Glitter and Lasers, who, she's been on several different sides of the, I don't know, being a fat creator.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go there. And she has very much, she's posted a lot about working out and wellness and stuff like that. And he attacks her all the time, every other video.
Okay, well, people that are literally in fitness and stuff, which to my knowledge he is, if he is who I think she's talking about, they're going to have something to say. They're going to critique something. Typically, people in anti-FA, they kind of specialize a little bit here or there, not always, but occasionally. So, like, what I tend to do on my channel is I criticize the mindsets behind it. Mindsets that, quite frankly, were going to lead me to death. That have led many to death. But, I would love to help prevent somebody from going to the edge like that. It's not something that I would want most people to experience. I took it. I'm taking with it what I will. I came out of it with a sense of purpose and all this stuff, but I don't think it's necessary for everybody to go through what I did. That's why I'm here. Okay, that's why I talk about it. That's why I'm doing this in general. But other people, they specialize in other aspects of it. I don't specialize in fitness. You're not going to hear me critiquing fitness or what people do in terms of that. I'm not here for that. I'm not going to critique things in the same way. You know, a lot of people aren't going to critique everything exactly the same. There's different styles, different ways of looking at it. That's all fine. But all I'm trying to say is he's going to criticize it because he is in fitness. So he's going to say a certain leg movement or a certain way of like stomping your knee, for example, when you are super huge or super morbidly obese, we can be even more specific. It's not necessarily a good thing. You don't want to get injured while you're working out. And there are a lot of times where people within toxic ritualistic mindsets and behaviors, especially behaviors, right? That's the big thing, is the behaviors. One of the behaviors is to work out so hard that you injure yourself so that you can't. Or you try to traumatize yourself out of not doing it anymore. Why? Remember, it always goes back to the start. Because if you exercise over time, your appetite would go down. And when you have B followed by E followed by D, you don't ever want that to happen. It is a nightmare situation to be too full to do it. You often still are, but it's still, you'd rather not be. So people that are in the disorder, even if it is subconscious, they will not exercise. They don't want to do anything because they're less hungry if they do it in the long run, which that can be a lot for a lot of people to kind of wrap their heads around. But remember, this disorder, it tends to go on for many years. It's a long thing. It's a very, very long thing that plays out. And I even saw the jock scientist, she advised people that if they worked out to the point where their appetite started to go down, she told people to stop. I never forgot that TikTok. I couldn't believe she said that. But it just goes to show some of the strategies in not exercising. That's why. Which again, that's what this whole episode of theirs has been about. They have been heavily focused on reinforcing not exercise. Like not exercising. That has been the hugest thing. And I'm going to say why. So why is she bringing this up? Is she bringing up a critique of Alan? I'll just say it. I'll be the brave one, apparently. Why is she bringing up a critique of Alan? Is she doing it because she has a genuine point? Is she doing it because she wants him to change something? No. She's doing it to frame it as, because of someone like him, who is one person in the world, one, then you shouldn't exercise because you're not going to get any approval anyways. So where's the toxic ritualistic line of thought? Why would you base if you exercise or not on other people's approval? That's toxically ritualistic. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Remember, within the disorder, food, exercise, all these things, they come down to strange, pseudo-logical reasons that are not real at all, like approval. Do we eat food or not due to approval? That sounds like a pretty fucking stupid reason to me. Do we exercise or not because of approval? It's a pretty stupid fucking question, isn't it? I think so. You have to throw out the entire thing. I have not played with these women. Like I said, I do see myself probably reacting to it more because it is so strong in them that it's a really good way to teach you guys about this stuff more because it's so bad. I have not seen it this bad in people, and to have it in long form, it's truly a treasure trove. I'll put it to you that way. But that's why. That's why she's bringing it up. Do we care if somebody approves of us exercising or not? No, why would we? Why would that even come up in your mind? That doesn't make sense. We don't base physical, on the ground things. Would you base cleaning your house on something like that? Maybe some people, they had like a toxic ritualistic transfer of logic, of shitty logic. But no, these are very basic things that you should not base upon social anxiety. Really, it just all goes back to anxiety. But whether it's emotions causing anxiety or social expectation causing anxiety, you're basing these very physical things on anxiety due to something like if Alan Roberts approves of you, which many of the people watching this, they don't even know him. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. If you want to take his critique, then take it. If he wants to point out, like, don't stomp your knee, I think about not stomping my knee. I think about it. It's something I consider. I'm careful. You know, he's not saying that to hurt somebody. It's the opposite, actually. And you have to have a realistic expectation about your size. And I know I don't have to be as careful as I used to. But to me, I'm still obese and I try to be careful. I'm very active. I walk a lot. I depend on walking a lot for my job. And I want to make sure that I'm okay. You know, just like I take care to not get sick. Like I always make sure I have my vitamin C and stuff, and it's worked very well. I even invest in it. Like I buy those freaking vitamin C shots, you know what I mean? Because I want to have a lot. Because I know it's a little bit stressful to be in a deficit. So I invest. But it's like you make these decisions just so that you're more successful. That's all. And Anna O'Brien, she has constantly talked about her injuries, her problems, like all these different things. Like, I mean, I always bring up that video where she was with the rocks and all that. She wasn't wearing any protective equipment. She was stuck. She was almost trapped. She was so traumatized. She almost like had a complete breakdown over that. And then she put it out there, like as if it was a good example, when all it did was scar a lot of people. And it made people think, oh gosh, I'm never going to do that. You don't want to do that. Do things safely. It's not that complicated. It's not that complicated unless if the goal is to make it impossible so that you can have an excuse as to why you're not doing it so that you can continue to be INGE, which is what it is. It's the same thing with taking on a diet that is unrealistic and stupid. Why do you do it? So that it will fail. Why? So that when it fails, then you can have a whole episode about it and you can be like, this is why, I tried a diet and I can't do it, because you're choosing something that's so ridiculous it specifically will fail. It's the same thing with exercise. You pick something that is dangerous so that you get injured so that you will fail, because the goal is to fail. Why? Because you don't want to stop. Everything within it goes back to not wanting to stop. And again, not everybody's going to have this at super extreme levels, but sometimes it can help to talk about it at an extreme level. Because even if you have shades of it, even if there's a little bit, even if it's subclinical, you don't want any of this. None. If you're making decisions based on, I don't want to go to the gym based on approval, that's toxic ritualistic. That doesn't make sense. That's not real. If you're choosing diets that specifically will fail, that's a huge red flag. If you're trying to injure yourself, and you have to understand some of these things, they can be subconscious, or you can be, especially on the BINGE side, you can be delusional about it. So that's important to understand too. But again, I don't think that everybody has this issue at all. But if you're super morbidly obese, I would really consider it. Are you choosing dumb diets that will fail on purpose without you even realizing it? it's something to think about. You know, when I was in the thick of it, I couldn't quite understand that until I was getting to the very end of the disorder. And then I was like, okay, this is a game. This is stupid. You have to see it for what it is. That's how you get out. Remember, don't think of it as an addiction. Think of it as a toxic belief system. Think of it as a belief system. Once you don't believe in it anymore, you don't do it anymore. When I was triggered last year really badly in April, I really considered doing it again. But then I remembered it's all fake. If I eat, it's not going to make me feel better. It's actually going to make my financial issues worse because I'm going to start wasting money on food that I don't need. It's going to make me more stressed. It's going to not really provide any comfort. I think food as a comfort is a myth. Food is a distraction. It's not a comfort. Once you're done eating, you're pretty much fried. Unless if it's like you're just actually physically hungry or actually like physically exhausted, then yeah, food can give you energy. Food is energizing, sure. The food as a comfort, really think about it. Does it actually make your breakup go away to eat ice cream? No. Maybe it gives your body some energy to deal with the stress of the breakup, but that's all it's doing. It doesn't take away the pain. It's a myth. So you have to really understand that a lot of these beliefs, they are pushed so heavily in American society. I don't know why. I don't know if there is some kind of agenda. I don't know if it is just there's a lot of people that have these problems here. I don't know. But the truth is they're not real. You're still dumped. You are still dumped if you eat or not. It's not real. It doesn't do anything. And I'm not trying to say like every single person that ate ice cream in a breakup, I'm not saying that you have a disorder, but I am saying that to do that all the time, it becomes something. It's a gradient. That's what I'm trying to say. It becomes like you start to find more and more reasons. And, you know, when I was dumped, I kept going. I had seasonal reasons. It was spring. You know, damn, if only he would have dumped me and like around Christmas or something, it would have been more convenient for me. But no, I got dumped in April. And I knew that that was when I had to move as I was super morbidly obese and I had to go. At that time, there was no waiting. I wasn't going to miss a year. In 2023, I wasn't going to. I knew that it was my chance. It was my opportunity to fight the obesity and to fight to get out of super morbid as it's very difficult. And so I did it. Why? Because I knew that to stop or to change my trajectory or to change my progress, it wasn't going to make me feel any better. Why did I know that? Because I'd already been out of the disorder. So I already knew. I had already been triggered by many things by that point. That's how you get out. You get triggered. You survive without the coping mechanism. And then you realize it's fake. And you just do that over and over again until you really understand it's not real. And when you understand it isn't real, then no, you're not going to go back. But a lot of people, they still believe in it. If you still believe, then yeah, you can go back. If I was telling you guys, gosh, you know, eating food, it's such a comfort. It's so comforting to me. I feel so bored. I feel so tired all the time. I feel so this and that and the other. I'm just going to eat a lot and I'm just not going to do the deficit anymore. Would you guys take that? Would you think that was a good reason? I'm bored. Because that's a lot of people's reasons. They're bored. Guess what? You're still going to be bored the second you stop eating. It doesn't do anything. It's a myth that it does. It's not true. It's not real.
It's like, I'm not even going to say what it is, but every other video, it's like, oh, but she's not doing it right. She's not doing it right because she's a fat person, right? And then like he had several videos about Lizzo, right? And I know, you know, we all have our feelings about Lizzo at this point, but like he has these videos about Lizzo of like, you know, she's still not good enough.
Well, this is where the Anna O'Brien part comes in, because whether or not you like following her content, she is doing all the things, but because she's not in a much thinner body yet, she's still getting shit on by the people that do that. Because part of me is like, okay.
There's a lot of issues with Anna O'Brien. There's personal issues. There's certain decisions that she's made. There's a lot that goes that with her. It is not just that she's big. There's a lot to it. You know, I'm not like a mega hater of Anna O'Brien. I don't mind covering her. I can understand a lot of it because to me, she's very in the disorder. I think she is a very good case study, but at the end of the day, like, there are people they just don't like her personality. They don't like her. You know, there's people that don't like my personality. There's people that don't like your personality. There's people that don't like a lot of people's personalities. That's okay. You know, people don't like not everyone likes everyone. You're not going to get everyone to like you. And there's a lot of people that love her, that she's running and she's fat. You know, they love that she's doing that. And then there's people that hate that she's doing that. I just don't want her to do anything dangerous, which she does sometimes. And then it's like, it's nerve-wracking. Like, the people in my family, like when I did the video where I covered her, like not being able to get out of the water, that was terrifying for a lot of very fat people. It was like a worse nightmare situation. Like she was talking about she's on a boat and she can't fit into the bathroom. Like these types of things are terrifying, horrifying, brutal type of experiences that I don't think really does any good. Why put yourself in those types of situations? And I think in her case, she specifically looks for it so that she can then be really anxious about her body, so it can reinforce the disorder again, because that's what it goes down to. Especially when you get to these very big sizes, there's likely something going on, you know, and not for every single person in the world, but in my opinion, the bigger you are, the more likely there's there's a mental health issue going on, you know, and she goes to great lengths to maintain it at the level that she's maintaining it, which is a lot. It's a lot. And people don't always realize that that's what they're doing. Like, I worked a job that I hated. I worked in an abusive work environment that I absolutely hated. Why? Because I wanted to feel traumatized by it, I guess. You know, I don't know. Why? So that it could still encourage the behavior. You have to give yourself reasons. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, is believing something like food is comfort. That makes you, in the disorder, you start to think, okay, I like feeling comforted by food. Therefore, I need to go create experiences for myself that make me need to be comforted because I like that feeling. You see? It doesn't make any sense. Because it's not even true. I still hated the job. I would get into work and I'd eat the entire shift every single day because I hated it. I absolutely hated the job. I get in there, I'd start going to the vending machines. So I'm working there just so I can make money so I can continue to be ING. I put on, like, I've told you guys quite a few times, like 30 to 40 pounds that year in like 3 or 4 months. That's really bad. It's very severe. It's a very bad episode, very huge relapse at that time. And it's like, if I wasn't at that job anymore, if I would have found a job that I liked, I wouldn't have had a reason to keep BINGing. And I would consider those days BING because I would eat like 7,500 calories a day. And to me, that's enough to count for sure. You know, when you're having a situation where you're just literally eating all day and all night, all the time. And I wasn't hiding it or anything at the time. I wasn't really hiding it from myself either. But I think for me at the time, it was just so normal to me that I was still very much in it. And I was still like, I can't even remember how I thought about it at the time. I think I was so worried about, oh gosh, so much stupid stuff looking back at it. But I was worried about like a relationship. I was worried about money. I was worried about like all these different things. I couldn't stand myself, right? So I was still very seeped in self-hatred. And I wanted to hurt. I just did. You know, and I look back at that time and it's like I chose a relationship that was very painful. I chose a job that I hated. I chose all these different things at that time specifically to feed into it. And I can see that now, that was the subconscious drive of why I did that. And it's really important to deprogram that and to get out of it because honestly, it's a really toxic reverse incentive. And I'm not even talking about like the hormonal aspects too, but I do believe hypothyroidism can also feed into this as you have less energy. And so you want to have adrenaline pumping and stress hormones pumping because it gives you energy. So therefore you have to be in a bad situation in order to feel energy as well. So again, like hormonal issues, sorry, my stomach is not happy talking about this. These hormonal issues, they often feed into the disorder once you're in it, and it makes it more severe because it feeds into it. Like, for example, being hungrier is a symptom of hypothyroidism. So wouldn't somebody with the disorder have an incentive to develop that? Even if it's just on a subconscious level. So if it's something like, oh gosh, you know, when I smoke weed, I can eat all the time. Weed is super estrogenic. It induces a hypothyroid state. Oh, if I drink a lot, I can eat more. Same thing. Oh, if I don't eat meat or if I don't eat this or, you know, if I kind of shift things around, if I only eat this certain type of food, then I can eat more. These are all thoughts that go into the disorder that a lot of people don't talk about. It's similar to the opposite end where they talk about strategies to eat less. People do the same shit on this side of the spectrum. And one of those things that I will keep talking about is not exercising, because if you exercise, then you're going to be less hungry. Not treating your hormone issues. Why? Because you want them, because you can eat more, because you're hungrier. Now that I'm less hypo, I can't eat like I used to. I get full. And even when it comes to something like Ozempic, people with the disorder, they will use it try to fight it to hell. And then when they finally break it, then they go, well, it doesn't work for me. That's where you have like an Amberlynn Reed type of situation. Or dare I say, a Rosie type of situation. I'm going to call out people. So I will be real. I will tell you why people do these things. They don't want it to stop. Why don't they want it to stop? I can tell you two main reasons. Because one, you can have an experience like I did last year where it was done, it was over, I was living life, and I was constantly triggered and I didn't have my coping mechanism anymore. And I felt so lost, so listless, so anxious, out of my mind. But I just faced thing after thing after thing. And I got through it. And now that that's all over, and I don't even have that part of it anymore, I am so bored now. I made a video about how I looked in the mirror and I didn't feel anything. And somebody literally commented, because I said my body is boring, and they're like, that's your ED. And I'm like, no, it's my lack of one. Because when I had it, my body was the most fascinating thing in the world. If I ever wanted to feel like shit, I could just look in the mirror. Instant stimulation. People don't think about this aspect. I will talk about it very plainly. These are the games that people play. It's not cute. But yeah, I don't have it. I'm bored. I'll tell you, I'm bored. But I deal with it. I deal with it. I'm bored with myself. I bore the hell out of me. I'm boring myself to death. I literally made a video called that. I'm boring myself to death. Because I don't have these health issues. My body is not a barrier to my life. I don't have that anymore. I don't look great. I don't look terrible. I just am there. And it's like, holy crap. Like I don't even remember the last time I felt this way. Like the last time I didn't feel anything about my body. The last time I hardly ever have to consider it. It's like, wow. And that's a lot of space in my noggin that I have to fill in now. I have to live without that. And same thing with the drama of it all. It's gone. People don't want to not have that drama. Because then we're faced with the mundanity of life. It's similar to, I used to feel this way physically too, where it's like, gosh, like there were parts of me that missed that sense of euphoria from eating something after not having eaten it in a long time. And I missed that on a physical level because food, it doesn't ever taste that way. But I got over it. And you start to forget. I'm starting to forget that feeling. So I don't feel the need to ever do it again. You see? And you just kind of live without it, and years of time, you just get over it. Because it's like, yeah, I'm bored, but I won't be forever. Why? Because I'm going to make something of my life. I'm going to do something. I'm going to seek good things. I'm going to seek positive things. I'm going to seek a positive relationship, positive career, positive life. So when you have a flop era, it's not always bad because it just means you've broken even. And now you can start ascending. And that part is a little scary for me because I don't know what that's like. But I'm going to do it. The skills that I learned in defeating the disorder, I use them all the time. I don't not do something because I'm anxious anymore. Because if I did that, I couldn't have stopped. So, there's blessing in everything. And if you can get out of this, then you can carry that with you. Because I can tell you, if you get a grip on this, you're never going to let anxiety control your life again. You just won't. Gosh. I didn't expect to go here, but anyways, let's continue. Sorry, I had a lot to say, I guess, but we're not done yet. I'm gonna just keep going.
Good fatty is things that people who are thin, who uphold uphold thinness as an ideal, are going to support and praise you for. And bad fatty is anything that people have those beliefs would shame you for, right? It's like, what things would get me praise and by someone who holds
Who
the value that
cares?
thinness equals correct or thinness equals right, in which things, that to me is like, that's it. You're a good fatty if you appease those people.
Yeah.
And you're a bad fatty if you don't appease those people. And we get it from...
You need to throw out appeasement in general. Because, okay, so you're not going to please Alan Roberts. Then is that person going to please you? They would say, yes, I want you to please me. I say no. You don't base basic life functions like movement and food on other people's opinions of you. That's not logical. Throw out the entire assumption. The whole thing is stupid.
We get signals of our good and bad fattiness from, I love the way I say that, from everyone, from ourselves. Like, that internalized fat phobia really shows up and makes you think those things. From our family, love my family. They knew that I did do intentional weight loss, right? The amount of praise and support I got around that was loud. As I stopped and got into more of a stable weight and was not performing, trying to lose more, that quieted.
Yes.
Right? And then I'm starting to get more conversation about losing weight again. So, like, does it feel good to get praise? Does it feel good to fit in and belong? It is a very intoxicating feeling to uphold the values people want of you, especially the ones you love the most. And then also, like, people who followed me, said things. And I had weight loss surgery for lots of reasons, and this episode's not for that necessarily. But what I can say is that there were multiple areas of my life where I felt like I mattered more with the weight loss, where I felt like I got more positive reinforcement with the weight loss. And I had to mentally do my whole bubble thing often, of reminding myself, you hold worth regardless. Reminding myself.
So my question for her, if I were to have been in that room, which they would never, oh my gosh, they'd freak the hell out if I was in there. My question would be, if it was so intoxicating, then what was it that made you stop? That's my question. And then you'd get the actual reason. So I don't believe this is why. I don't believe her. I think she'd say, well, I felt horrible, or it was destroying my mental health, or it was this, it was that, right? Then you can start actually breaking down, okay, well, how is it destroying your mental health? Well, because I was hungry all the time. Well, why were you hungry all the time, right? You have to really question these things because, again, well, okay, is there a way where you can lose the weight where you're not hungry? Yeah, there's multiple ways. Multiple. Well, why don't you want to pursue that? Well, because, and then you get into the, and then you start to hear like the shh, and it gets into the static, But it's easy for her to just be like, well, I just had to really focus on me and all this stuff and da-da-da-da. And I'd say, okay, well, why don't you focus on your body? How does your body actually feel? That's something that a lot of people dissociate from in this disorder. They dissociate from how awful their body feels. And oftentimes, they do it to such an extent, which again, why? So that you can keep going. Everything goes back to that. So a lot of people that are recovering from E fall by the letter D, I can experience, or I have experienced it and see it in other people that are getting out of B followed by E followed by D on the BING side. They start to feel how awful they actually feel. And part of that is because you're not doing that behavior so much. So you're not numbing yourself or just thinking about, right, those 3 topics. It's always food, body image, diet. Those 3. So the food you're eating, the food you're not eating, and the way you look. And so when you're getting out of the disorder and you're not doing that anymore, you start to feel how you feel. Not just emotionally, that is a part of it, but also physically. And a lot of people within it, they have zero connection to their body. When I was in it, I had zero connection. Zero. I once had a counselor. I actually was sent to a counselor in high school. And I once had a counselor tell me, I want you to connect to your body. And I literally did not even know what she meant. And I didn't understand it. I understand it now. But at the time, I didn't. So I think I just kind of was like, oh, yeah, because I was like 16, 17 or whatever. And I was like, I don't know what the hell she's talking about. I didn't get it. But it's like, people that don't have that disorder or who never did, they could hear that and be like, there are people who don't connect to their body. And it's like, yeah, you have to not. Because if you really feel how awful you feel, you're going to have to, what's the word? Stop. What's the goal? You don't want to stop. It all goes back to that. Think of how many things I've talked about in this video. How much does it take to maintain this disorder? How much do you have to give up? How many games do you have to play? How much bullshit do you have to put up with and do? How many things do you have to affirm to yourself? You have to literally do toxically ritualistic affirmations every single day. This is how I'm meant to be. This is my body. This is how it is. This is my genetics. This is my genetics. This is my genetic. You have to literally reinforce it to that level. You have to go talk to friends that also have it. Then they reinforce it in you. Then you reinforce it in them. Then you have to, because it's not real. If something is a complete delusion, then you have to work every single hour of every single day to keep that delusion alive. Because if you don't, reality always comes knocking at the door. Every time. And why don't you want that to happen? You guys should be able to answer the question now. Because then you have to stop. You don't want to. I would have believed that I could walk on water if it would have enabled me. If somebody told me, if you walk on this water, then you can keep binging, I would have tried. I would have tried hundreds of times. I'm just saying. If you walk on these coals barefoot, you burn your feet, but you're going to be able to keep doing that, then I would have done it 100 times. People will do anything. They will make anything up. They will try everything. They do not want to give it up. And that's where I think people do see it as an addiction, but it's not. It's an entire way of building your world. You think it was easy to understand that I'd have to basically change my entire life? Because everything in my life was based around this disorder? You think that that's been a fun process for me over the past 4 years? To have to completely start over from the ground up. Everything from food choices, work choices, friendships, how I navigate that type of stuff. Getting dumped, sacrificing a relationship that I didn't want to, but I had to, because he didn't like me anymore. He didn't like that I wasn't a busted bitch anymore, that I was getting out of it, which fuck me for that, right? I had to deal with a lot of stuff. I had to change everything. People don't want that. And again, it's not always going to be as severe as it was for me. But for these women, I think it's on that level. I do. I really do. Their whole career is based around it. Oh my God. Can you imagine? They have to change their whole career. Everything is based around it. So people need to have compassion. People need to understand it's a process. People need to understand it takes years. It's not easy at all. It's embarrassing. And once you're out, you don't have anywhere to go. You have to deal. You have to find other ways of dealing. It's difficult. But again, if you get out, you can use that in anything. You know, I'll never let anxiety stop me again. Ever. You take with it the recovery that you got. You take everything you get from it, and you try to take as much good as possible. That's what we have to do. You know, it's tough. It's tough, but it's not going to get any easier. The longer you're in it, the harder it is. You just have to stop. I'm sorry. You gotta stop. I know you don't want to hear it. I know you don't. I didn't. That's what it comes down to. Every time. It comes down to stopping. Second I realized I had to stop, second I actually stopped, I found the right diet. I moved to a better location for me. You know, I'm a lot happier in Alabama than I was in El Paso, for example. I hated El Paso. I didn't like the desert. I don't like the desert. I hated my job. I hated that job too. Not as bad, but I hated it. So I started doing work that I could stand. And I remember like my first year in recovery, I was like, wow, like everything I'm doing in my life, I'm choosing to do because it's what I would prefer to do. And that was the first steps. And that's the magic in it too. Because the disorder, it keeps you frozen in time. Similar to an addiction. But it's because you're not actually dealing with issues, you're not actually progressing, you're not actually growing, you're not actually doing things. Because every time something happens, you're going to the coping mechanism that doesn't do anything. Ever. So, when you do that, you don't go forward. Or you're actually sabotaging yourself in order to keep the disorder alive, which is even worse. It'd be better to just be neutral at least. But I took the step to not just not sabotage, but to pursue things I actually liked, to figure out what I actually liked, what I actually wanted to do, what I actually could see myself doing, what I actually enjoyed. And that helped. That helped my recovery. I started pursuing things in life that I actually enjoyed and started doing things that I actually wanted to do. You know, like I told you guys, one of those things is I realized I liked activism. I wanted to be an activist. I didn't know what for at first. I didn't. So I looked, and then I finally decided, and like I said, I'm really happy about what I decided upon because it's what I care about more than anything. You know, and it makes sense. in retrospect, but it took a minute. I didn't know what I liked. I thought I wanted to be a writer or whatever, but I hated writing. You see? When you get out, your mind opens. And it is a process, but you can catch up and stuff. And I am working my ass off. I am. But it's a beautiful thing. It's ugly sometimes, but overall it's beautiful. That's the best way I can put it. So it's going to be okay. I'm telling you, I got out. It's fine. There's a lot of people who've gotten out. We're all better off. You're going to be better off. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm just going to leave it here. I had a lot to say today, so I'm sorry if that bothers you guys, but I feel like what I was saying was probably more important. But for people who haven't experienced this, understand it takes years for a lot of people. You know, in my opinion, for me, it took me 6 years. I was very severe. Probably more average, it'd probably take 4. And less severe, probably 2. You know, think about it. It takes time. It's time. So that's partly why I want to talk about it too, just for the general public, is that people have an understanding. Like if they were to stop, it would take a while to completely stop. Because it's a very slow but steady realization as you fight the disorder. You realize it's not real. But it's scary. You know, it's like being a kid and you're scared the monsters are going to get you, and you're putting your foot out a little bit out of the covers, and you're like, oh my gosh. That's what it feels like to not do the disorder. So it's scary. It is. But eventually, keep putting your foot out of the covers and you're like, oh gosh, something's happening. Then you put an arm out too. Then you do something else. Then you do another thing, right? Then eventually you just throw the covers off. You just don't care anymore. That's where I'm at. And then you have a bunch of people scared under the covers telling you that you're still scared. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But that's okay. That happens a lot. But it's like, it's because I talk about it and stuff, which I get. And I understand, like, it's so hard to imagine life without it when you're in it, but it exists. It does. But you just have to constantly prove to yourself and test your assumptions that this disorder is the answer to all life's issues. And you test and test, and you'll see every single time that it's not the answer. But most people, they don't ever question it. They don't ever try. And that is why you won't get out. Is if you don't ever try. I told you, you will have to white knuckle it. You're going to have to be anxious and not do it. You will have to face a trigger and not do the behavior. Remember, it's those 3 things. It's not just about eating. It's eating, dieting, thinking about not eating something, or thinking about your body image. So remember, there's 2 other things. It's not just the one. Everybody always looks at the one. They don't look at the other ones. But that's true too. So what does it mean? It means last year when I was struggling and I wasn't sure if my car was going to keep working, I didn't go stare in the mirror. I thought about my car. I freaked out about it. I was anxious out of my mind over it. But I didn't do the stuff. I dealt with it. All right, you guys. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Peace.